Right, this should be live. Oh, that's promising. Let me test the audio. Is that working now? So, I think you can't see me at the moment. Can you see me? Can you hear me? You can. Right. This is so confusing. So I'm trying to watch it on my phone to see when it kicks in, and it says it's not started yet. We have sound and video. Right. We've kicked off. Brilliant. Right. Thank you for bearing with me, guys. So funnily enough, I was just saying how much of a pain in the backside it is to set up these live streams and how much respect I've got for the likes of Reef Dudes and so on who do these all the time. And I was saying that I want to do more, but let me just adjust my camera as well. So there is nothing on the agenda tonight, no specific topic, although I want to have topics when I do these, when I do them regularly. But I want to kick off firstly. I'll do sort of answer all your questions, all that sort of stuff. I've got a few things I want to talk about. But first off, I want to put something right from my last live stream. And that was someone asked me, I can't remember who it was. If it was you, let me know in the comments. Someone asked me for tips on keeping a nano tank. And I gave an answer. I said something like, that's a challenge I wouldn't want to take on. It'd be too difficult, something like that. And as soon as the video finished, I turned to my left and saw a nano tank with SPS in it and thought, what the hell are you talking about? You've got one. So basically, tips on keeping, so this is answering the question from last time, tips on keeping SPS in a nano tank. Just test all the time. The more water volume you've got, the easier it is. But just testing is just so important. So with this tank, I've been up and running for about 6 months. I didn't test. My alkalinity got down to about 5. So when I did test it, I had to bring it up slowly, which is fine. And then I didn't test nitrate and phosphate, and they both bottomed out because I didn't really have much input going in. I wasn't feeding that much. They bottomed out, wasn't testing. And so I had to then dose nitrate to get it up because I had an outbreak of dinoflagellates, the dreaded dinoflagellates, which actually was, for me, on this occasion, was really easy. I got rid of them in a weekend because they were all on I've got like an egg crate frag rack at the top, and that was the only thing covered in dinos. So I ripped that out, threw it away, put a UV sterilizer on, turned my lights down, dosed nitrates and all that sort of stuff, and it went away. But back to the point about testing all the time, I then stopped testing nitrates, and I went from having 0 nitrates to having 37 parts per million nitrates. So now I'm getting that back down again, and they're at a steady level now. And what I found was when I had some nitrates in there, I don't know what the measure was, 5 or 10 parts per million, the corals look really nice. And I've got a few kind of tester SPS frags in there, some Montes and a couple of hardy acros, and they look really good. But then they started to look a bit faded, and that's the point I tested the nitrates, at which point I discovered they were really high, and that's probably why they were faded. So tips on how to run SPS nano tanks: test all the time, as often as you possibly can. Okay, so that is wrong righted. Now let's have a look in the chat. We have got loads of people in the chat today. Hello, everybody. Braveheart Reefer, Thomas R, Gary White, Dan, Ailey Warbo. Everyone's just saying we can hear you, which is all good. And actually, one of the other things, I planned on doing this live stream with my proper camera as the camera, so it's a bit better quality. But again, setting that up was proved to be beyond me. We have Sir Raymond van Leuven, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, who is from the Netherlands, North Holland. Who else have we got? Can we talk about phosphates, please? Dan Fielding, what do you want to know about phosphates? Dean Fielding. I've been struggling with P and PO4 levels. Not sure what the P is. First, they were way too high and caused problems. Then I'm worried they're too low. But my main problem is knowing the difference between P, PO4, and natural versus inorganic. Wow. I think I don't know what P is, to be honest. Phosphorus? I might be missing something there, but I think you might be overthinking things, to be honest. If you're testing natural and inorganic and trying to figure that out, personally, I wouldn't look into it that much. As long as you've got some level of phosphate, you are good. On my main tank, my phosphate got up as high as 0.6. which is a bad thing. But everything was fine. I had lots of sensitive aquapora in there, including tenuis, that are some of the most sensitive ones. And it was okay. It didn't. Some of the colours didn't look great, but some actually some looked fantastic. But it had crept up slowly. Is the point I'm making? So as long as you've got some phosphate in there, 0 is obviously bad. I think most people know that now. 0 phosphate is bad, but as long as you've got something, you're okay. And try to keep on top of it as best you can. 0.03 to 0.05 is ideal if you could press a button and set it, but don't fret too much if it gets a little bit higher. And it's one of those things that I find is quite difficult to. It's not like with dosing. If you're dosing alkalinity and calcium, you can add a little bit more alkin and then it levels off. Phosphate and nitrate, it's a bit more of an art than a science, controlling it and getting it right. But just test all the time. Back off your feeding if your levels are too high. If your nitrate's too high, then you can back off you can turn your skimmer off for half an hour, for half a day. You can turn your refugium lights down, those sorts of things. And managing phosphate, I think, is not that difficult. It's just a hassle. So Rowaphos, in my opinion, is probably the best thing to do. You've just got to change it reasonably often, do little and often. But Dean, if that answers your question, great. If not, post again and we'll cover it more, because phosphate is a pain, basically. The phosphate testing kit I use is the Hannah one, which is that bad boy. I often get asked, this is phosphate ULR. That's the one you want. That's the one that measures the sensible range. And I've just realized I've got a test vial still in it, and my Hannah nitrate high range checker also has as well, which means this vial is now going to be stained probably with the acid from that color. So I might have to wash them. Anyway, the Hannah testers are just so good, and they're just so quick and easy. They're a little bit expensive, to be honest, but they just make it so easy. And without them, I don't bother testing, because I can't be bothered. Bob McRae, hi from Calgary, Canada, beautiful part of the world. Welcome. Raymond van Leuven, I have the Kessel AP700 for 3 months now. A fantastic light. I had that exact same light a while ago, probably 3 years ago now. And I sold it because it wasn't powerful enough for my tank. But I miss Kessel. The color and the shimmer just so good. It's just not enough punch. But I've actually just bought 2 more Kessels to supplement my main lighting, my Evergrow lights. So I'll tell you guys about that later. But fine choice. W3 from Vancouver, Canada. We have a bit of a Canada situation going on, which is great. Fish No Chips, hello. Yeah, we hear you now. Good. Dean Fielding, having lots of different readings between Hannah ULR tester, Salifert, and ICP results. Right. So when your test results are different, that is another common issue that comes up. Now, it's not an issue I ever have, because I don't really care about all the other test kits. So every now and then, I had a Red Sea phosphate test kit that always read 0.14 every single time. And I just knew it was wrong. It just didn't feel right. I also felt my PO4 was higher. So at that point, I checked it against another test, which is when I got the Hannah checker. And it's more accurate, in my opinion, or in my experience, I should say. But if you've got different results from different test kits, I mean, which one do you believe, right? It's hard work. Apparently, from what I've understood from BRS and the likes, the ICP tests aren't great for phosphate and nitrate, and they can be a little bit out. I don't know if that's true, to be fair, because other people have told me that it is accurate. But if you're concerned about your test kits, you can get reference solutions. So Tropic Marine do one. I can't remember what it's called, but if you search for Tropic Marine reference solution, or even phosphate reference solution, you'll get, I don't know what other companies do it, but there are various companies that do it. It'll be a reference of 0.05 phosphate, for example. So you test your test kit against that, and if it comes up at 0.05, it's correct. If it doesn't, it's off. There's probably a kind of a margin for error, but they're only about 15 quid for a bottle, so probably worth that. But I would personally just get one test kit if you can afford it, the Hannah one, and just stick to it. And because really the level is more important than the exact number. The hobby test kits aren't spot on; they're not exactly perfect. So I tend to stick to one. But if you're getting results all over the place from everything, I understand why you want to know, which is right. So test with the reference kits. Bit blurry. Yeah, this is a trouble, DJ Arts, which, yeah, I've got this amazing 4K camera, but I just couldn't. I spent an hour trying to hook it up. I'll get there though. I'll work it out. It's really because I'm having problems with the software, but I'll come back to that, and we'll have better quality video next time. I haven't tested in 6 months. Roman, you absolute rebel. No, I suck at testing as well. Thomas R, here from SoCal. Welcome. How come all my corals are dying? Alien, give a lot more details. Really, when I often get comments like that in, or questions like that in either direct messages in Instagram or comments on my Instagram posts, comments on my YouTube posts, comments in live stream, you're not going to get a full answer. Really, it needs to be a back and forth chat. So what you want to do is sign up to a Facebook group or ideally a forum. Ultimate Reef in the UK is great. Reef to Reef in the States is the main one, I think. And you want to explain everything. So you want to tell someone, if you just say, why are my corals dying? Who knows? Your parameters are probably off. So you want to, people will want to know what corals you've got, what lights you've got, how long your tank's been up and running. Do you have live rock? What are your phosphate levels? What are your nitrate levels? Are you testing salinity? All these things. There's so many things that it could be. So how come my corals are dying? How long is a piece of string? But do water changes. They are usually the answer to most problems. What else have we got? Only 20% water change every 2 weeks. That's fine. Sounds good to me. Just bought a sump for my 75-gallon, currently using 2 canisters. Oh, canister filter. I've been looking at overflow box for it. Is it possible to buy one too big? Some are rated for 150 gallons. Is it possible to buy an overflow box? Probably. The best way is to drill the tank and fit overflows that way. I don't know if you can get overflow boxes that take a lot of flow. I've never done it, so I'm not the best person to ask, I'm afraid, but you probably can do. Next question. Boring vlogs. Where do I buy coral wallpaper like that? Look pretty. If you're talking about these pictures, it's off. I got them from some guy on Instagram. He might be watching this. So if you are, put a comment in the chat and tell people what your Instagram page was called. Coral.pl, I think coraldesign.pl, something like that. I'll have a look and I'll post a message for it. I'll post a link for it. Yeah, coraldesign.pl is his Instagram, and I think that's the name of the website as well. And they're quite cool. I think this was 40 quid. I think they were both 40 quid, and then postage on top of that, which actually wasn't that much considering it was from Poland. Where did you get your canvases? You already know the answer, AD. Don't know what the results. Dean Fielding, here we go. Don't know what results to choose. Hannah is saying between 0 and 16 parts per billion. ICP says 33 parts per million. What do I believe? I would believe the Hannah of those two, to be honest. But I rate Hannah. I think they're really good. So I would believe the Hannah out of those two. Hello. Hey, Alex. Evening. Ciao. All's good. What's up? Good work, RD. If someone wants to move their fish to a new tank, what's the best way? Fish is not that difficult, to be honest, as long as you've got, well, I don't know. If you're transferring all your rock over, that probably makes it easier. What you really want to do is fill up you might be putting your new tank in place of your old tank, in which case it's a hassle. But if they're in a different place, you can set up the new tank, fill it with salt water, get the salinity right, test that to make sure it's spot on. Get the what else do you need to check? Well, temperature up to the exact same temperature, and they've got to be the same as each other. It doesn't matter if you want to increase it later, the same as each other, salinity and temperature, and then just weighing them across. You're going to want to be transferring your live rock from your existing tank. Otherwise, there's no filtration, and there'll be ammonia, and everything will go pear-shaped quickly. But if you transfer over your live rock, that's fine. Don't transfer over your sand, because as you stir it up, it will release a load of crud that will cause you a spike. So that's how I've done it in the past. If you have to move your tank out of the way and put the new one in place, it's harder because you then got to drain your tank into vats, put all the rocks in there, and then move it across. And it takes a lot more time than you'd think. So the water goes cool, and then balancing the temperature and getting it level is difficult. But just set aside as much time as you can. Start as early in the morning as you can, so you're not doing it at 3 a.m. Evening from the USA. Good evening, stateside. even from Dubai, in fact. My sister used to live in Dubai. And I just scrolled down too far. So what did I want to talk about today? Do you know what? So someone asked me in the chat beforehand, Josh Powell, I think. Someone asked me, and I'm just chuckling at some of the comments there. Someone asked me what the score is with my my tank, the coral rock that I said I was going to rip out. So I've got the new rock settling in my sump and building up, and I've provisionally sold the coral rock to a very famous reefing celebrity. But I'll tell you more later. Probably not leaving much to the imagination there, to be honest, but still. I've set up a 29-gallon Coral Life BioCube, and it's got some Softies LPS, all doing great. I also got a bubble tip NEM, but I've been told the light isn't good enough and it looks healthy. What should I do? I don't know what light you've got. I've never kept an anemone, I should say, apart from rock flower anemones, which are totally different to bubble tips. If you've got something like I don't know, to be honest, the best answer to that is go on a forum like Reef to Reef or Ultimate Reef, ask around what par people keep their bubble tip NEMs in. Try to find people who've had them a while, because on forums people often want to help you even if they've got limited experience. So I'll just Google around, to be honest. I don't know what par they require. Apparently they require quite strong par. So if you've got quite a weak light, you might have to upgrade it. And just because it's looking healthy now doesn't mean it's okay. That's an easy trap to fall into, one I've fallen into many times with a clam. Clams require high light. It looked fantastic for ages, and then suddenly, boom, it went down a cliff, fell off a cliff, I think because it wasn't getting enough light. Do you think you'd ever get out of the hobby? Recognize, regular commenter. I hope not. I do see people, if I have a problem in the tank and it's a big problem, it can be quite demoralizing. So I had dinoflagellates in my main tank. To be fair, it wasn't that bad, but it could have been. Dinos can be a nightmare. I had it easy. It was relatively easy to deal with. But if you have real problems, if all my fish got wiped out, all my corals got wiped out, I'm always going to be in the hobby, I think, likely. But I think it would hit me hard because it's tough. You spend a lot of time, money, and effort, and you're heavily invested in this. So I always feel for people who have major issues. But no, I don't think I'll ever leave the hobby. I just love it. I'm absolutely addicted. In your experience, what's the best way to reduce nitrates in a nano without dosing chemicals? To have as few fish as possible to start with. Prevention is worth an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure and all that. To what else do you want to do? To feed as low as possible. That's probably the best way. Back off your feeding. As long as you're feeding every day, that should be fine. So that's the way I would start. Apart from that, I've never really kept a proper nano. So my nano has got a sump, so I've got Chaetomorpha in there. I've got Biomedia Cyperax that supposedly does that sort of thing. But really, I think if you're doing regular water changes and check your source water, so the RO water you're using, mix it in with your salt, and as long as that's reading low nitrates, then doing water changes regularly every week, 10%, should be enough on its own, to be fair. So that should be okay, I think. What are some unique fish for a 20-gallon? Varshil MVH Pets. You want to go on, what's the guy's name? The bald guy, reefer in America. He set up a shop. Mad Hatter's Reef, Jeff. He's done a ton of videos like top 10 fish for Pk size reef. There are some little gobies like Catalina gobies and that sort of thing that are good for that size of tank. You've got to be careful with some of those, though, because they are cold, well, not cold water fish, but much colder water. I think the Catalina goby in particular doesn't like our high 70s, mid 20s centigrade temperatures. 20 gallon, what's that in litres, by the way? 80 litres. That's a decent size, to be fair. You could get a couple of clownfish in there quite happily. Maybe a, what are the little gobies called? The shrimp gobies. Those guys. What's the one I've got? It's red and checkered. They're wicked. Geometric pygmy perchlet. But you've got quite a few options. That's a decent enough size tank. I have cyanobacteria in my sump, but not in the display. I use AI Prime LED with Kato. Any idea? Dublin Island. What about you, George? So that is, I believe it's been a long time since I've had cyano, but I believe that's an imbalance that's caused by an imbalance between nitrate and phosphate. So get your nitrate and phosphate under control. I wouldn't worry about it too much if it's just in your sump, to be honest, but that's probably because you've got low flow as well going through your sump. So remove as much as you can do. I think you don't really want to have increased flow in your sump, but remove as much as you can do. Manual removal is usually the first port of call for pests, as long as you can do it. Aptasia and enemies, you can't manually remove them, but remove as much as you can. Get your nitrate and phosphate back on track, and over time things should be okay. But cyano isn't really anything to worry about. Don't hit the panic button. I had it for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months before I took action. I ended up using ChemiClean, which I was happy to do on my tank because it was quite in the early stages, didn't have many fish and corals in it. I wouldn't use it in my tank now because I've got a ton in there, but I had no side effects. So I got my nitrate and phosphate back under control, tried that for a couple of months to see if it would work, increase my flow, and it didn't work. Helped to a bit, but it didn't really work. So I ended up using ChemiClean to get rid of it, and it never came back. I assume when I start my first tank, do I need some kind of reactor, or is that just a fancy addition? And a skimmer would be enough. Skimmer is, I mean, you don't even need a skimmer, depending on what size tank it is, but skimmers are brilliant. So a skimmer as your only filter is probably okay. Just go slowly. Just add as few fish as you can. It's hard to resist. Something I'm not very good at, but go very slowly. Add as few fish as you can. Test regularly, and you'll be fine. But the best thing to do, you really just crack on and learn from your mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. But yeah, to answer your question, skimmer is fine. I have a tank that was 6 months old, and I moved to a new house. Now I'm fighting hair algae. Get your manual removal again, and get yourself a load of, or not a load of, but for a start, add more cleanup crew. And what are they called? Urchins. Blue tuxedo urchins are a secret weapon against hair algae. Mollies, freshwater mollies, you can acclimate them to salt water as well. I've never done it, but supposedly they love green hair algae. But if you've got enough space for a bigger fish like a tang or a foxface, I don't really like tangs, but a foxface, then get one of those. Predators for you. So there's no algae in my tank, but it's not because I'm a genius and I've figured out how to grow corals and not algae. It's because I've got things that eat it. And as soon as it gets into an area where the fish can't get to, it grows. So algae predators are the way to go. Whoop, live reef dork. Beer, cheers to that. Want to start dosing on a 4-month-old reef tank. What do you think to Alpha Reef? It's what I'm using on my Nano tank. I wouldn't want to use it on a bigger tank with high demand for alkalinity and calcium because it would get expensive, but it's great. Really simple. To be fair, I've never tested calcium, so I couldn't tell you if it's keeping it in balance. Maybe I should do. In fact, I should do. But the alkalinity is nice and stable, and I think it's probably fair to assume that calcium is in balance, but actually, as I'm saying, that's probably not fair to assume. But Alpha Reef, really good. Loads of people are using it lately. And I've had, well, I don't know if I'd say I've had success with it. I've been using it for 6 months, but it's keeping my alk stable. And the tank looks okay, except when the nutrients were spot on, the tank looked great. So good stuff. Are you going to start freshwater anytime soon? No, I am not, American UK. I started on freshwater at the start, but I just found them fish really boring. Just weren't my cup of tea. And I kept looking for sort of centerpiece fish, angelfish. I tried all sorts. Just couldn't ever find a fish that I found interesting. And I found that they don't have personalities like saltwater fish. In a saltwater tank, there's just so much going on and so much natural behavior, and it's fascinating. But freshwater, just not my cup of tea. But I've seen some banging tanks, to be fair. But anyway, something about AP700s being amazing. Correct. Suv Porridge, hello from Estonia. If you are... Ooh, audio check. If you are not in Tallinn, I don't know where you are from, but hello, good evening and welcome. Can you recommend what return pump I should get for a 120-gallon tank? So Carl Taylor, my main tank is around 120 gallons, 110 maybe, something like that. And I use 2 Jecod DCP 6000, no, MDC 6000 return pumps. I had an Ecotech Vectra L1 that was overpowered. So if you're going to go down the Ecotech route, really nice pumps. Go for the M1. Sorry, it's M2 now, isn't it? So go for the M2 which is medium size, not the L, which is large, or maybe even the S, and turn it up a little bit. I prefer to oversize pumps and turn them down. And I have now 12,000 litres per hour of pumps running at 50%. So to be honest, though, if you want to go Ecotech, they're great and they're really nice. And they're a bit fancy and they're nice build quality and all this. I talked about this in my video the other day. But you can't beat, in my opinion. In fact, let's finish that conversation off from expensive equipment. In my opinion, Jecod return pumps are the way to go. That's the one place I would say is worth saving money. And I've never had a Jecod, touch wood, return pump fail. I've got one that's been running for 3 years on my main tank as a manifold pump, and I've never had them fail. The power heads fail all the time if you leave them out of water, but the return pumps I've never had them fail. So that would be my recommendation, and probably maybe an 8 if you're just going to get one, maybe an 8,000 litre per hour one, and maybe run it at 50%. What would that give you for 2,000? Yeah, that would give you plenty of turnover. So I would go for an 8,000 litre per hour Jecod MDC and run it at 50%. It'll be nice and quiet then as well. Quentin from East London, South Africa. Cool. Would be interested to hear what your favourite fish food is, flake, frozen, etc. Which brands? I can't tell you what the brand is, Quentin. I can't remember what it's called. I don't know if it's specific to UK either, but it's the one that's oh god, that's really annoying. I want to know that. Anyway, I always use frozen. Very rarely feed. I've never fed flake food. I find the fish, I just can't get them to eat it. Well, I didn't try that hard. Sometimes I feed pellets, but I prefer not to. I've got a copper-banded butterfly, and they're not interested in dry food. They only eat frozen food. So I always feed frozen. And I can't remember what the brand is. Ocean Nutrition, maybe. But yeah, frozen food, and it's mysis. I use mysis. I did try RS or PE mysis for a while, but it's really fatty and oily, and the shrimp themselves are quite big. They're quite chunky, and I found that a lot of my fish struggled to eat it. I had what were they? Scarlet dragonets, so mandarin, the little scooter blenny type fish, and what they occasionally try to eat frozen food, and watching them trying to choke down a massive RS mysis was like watching someone chew on a kielbasa. So yeah, don't go for RSPE mysis. Apparently it's better for fish, better nutrition. But personally, unless you've got big fish, I'd find that I wouldn't like it. Gary White, what's in the glass? It is a Peroni, Gary. Got a Q-Maven 160 watt light, pretty good. I've heard of Q-Maven, but I don't know anything about them. 160 watts is quite beefy though, so that's good. It reassures me, Dean Fielding, phosphates again. It reassures me I'm kind of on the right track, but not exactly answered my question. I think my question is a bit complex to explain. I'll maybe email you, as it could be a subject in itself. Good man. Don't test. Water chance. Good. I don't have a saltwater tank yet, but when I do get started and ready, what would be the care for a conch snail? The care for a conch snail is get water in there, put salt in the water, warm it up, throw the conch in. Not literally, acclimate it, of course, but conches, they will eat diatoms, so they're good for the early outbreak stage, and they'll filter through and they'll be fine. I've never had a conch die, as far as I can tell, from starvation. They'll look after themselves. You don't need special care. You don't need to feed them. If you want to feed them, they're quite slow, so you'd have to, I don't know, put a pellet next to them of an algae pellet of some kind, but just let them do their own thing. I can recommend Seache pumps, sub porridge. My friend from Estonia. So I don't like Seache pumps. I bought it was a second-hand one, to be fair, so maybe that's why, but I bought a SDC 7000, and I found it really noisy for a DC pump, and I didn't like it. So I got rid of it, and that's what when I went to Jecod. OBS C3D PO. Yeah, that's what I was trying, mate. It's it's just because I'm not used to it, and I was trying to figure it out, but I just couldn't get it to. I couldn't get it to accept my camera, which was the annoying thing. But anyway, another day. That's the only success in this one. Water change. Evening from Dubai. Ways hack. Evening. Have you ever had problems with dinos? And if so, yeah, Luke Spooner. So I talked about this a minute ago. I don't know if you've asked since then, but get your nitrates and phosphates at a decent level. Run UV, a slow, low flow. What else do you want to do? So turn your lights down. Apparently they're, I think they're photosynthetic. There's a group called, I think it's called something like Max Dino Flagellate Support Group on Facebook. Go on there. The guy knows 1,000 times more than me. So get yourself on a Facebook group like that and see what you can come up with. I just set up a Coral Life bio. Oh, and go back and watch the start of this video. It's probably about 15 minutes into this video, I guess, when I talked about what I did. Or find my tank thread on Ultimate Reef for my Waterbox Frag 55.2, and I detail it quite in length at what I did there. I had it easy, but I tell you what I do, and it was got rid of it easily. I just set up a Coral Life BioCube 3 weeks, got some Softies LPS. How bubble tip. Oh yeah, well, I think we've done this. That's a deja vu there. How long post cycle you guys and Reef Dork wait before adding coral? How long do you wait to add coral? I mean, as long as you can resist, to be honest, but I'm terrible at that, and I had coral straight away. But then it's kind of okay for me to do that because I know when a coral starts to look sad and I know what to do about it. So really, I mean, putting a tester coral in after a month or so is no bad thing. If you can resist and wait 2 or 3 months, then do that. But go softies to start with, and then work up to LPS later. And soft corals like toadstools are so hardy. Capnella, which is called Kenya tree, really hardy. You can't kill it. So do your worst. That's probably the best thing to do. Water changes are like a refresh for tanks. Testify, Thomas R. Best answer when you parameters, they are all perfect. Okay. Hey, sexy bald reefer. Hello, Red Scorp. Bro, I have been watching your videos for ages. I desperately want a reef tank, but I am poor in year 9, lol. I'm a nerd. We are all nerds here. You are welcome. But yeah, you can do it cheaply. You can do it proper cheaply as well, not just relatively cheaply. But I'm not the best person to ask for that because I tend to avoid cheap kit, with the exception of Jekod, and even that, it's not that cheap. But you can do it cheaply. If you use a siphon overflow, you will have to monitor. Don't know about siphon overflows. Greeting from Jasper, Canada. Aman Singh. We got a load of Canadians in tonight. Have you ever tried Bergia Nudibranchs? I plan on breeding them. No, I haven't, because I have Halichoris wrasses in all of my tanks, with the exception of my my Nano tank. No, I haven't. I love Halichoris wrasses, and I think they would probably eat them, so I've gone with other solutions. But supposedly they're very good, and if you don't have a fish that will eat Bergia Nudibranchs, they are what I think is probably the closest to a perfect solution. Although even then, with that being said, once the big ears can't find any more Aptasia, I think the chances are they'll die of starvation because that's all they can eat. And then Aptasia are likely to come back because there's always a tiny little bit there. So really, you've got, I think, so I've got a copper band. I shouldn't encourage people to buy a copper band because they are genuinely difficult to keep, and I've been lucky with this one. But keep having a fish in your tank that will always eat them is the best way to keep it away. I've got Aptasia in my weir box, tons of them, where the copper band can't get to, and some in my sump, but there's none in the tank. But copper bands aren't a great option, to be fair. And the Aptasia eating filefish is a coral eating filefish, in my experience. The peppermint shrimp are good. I find they like to leave a couple of, they kind of control the levels of Aptasia, but they like to leave some there. I don't know if it's because they want it to grow them and eat them. I don't know. But there you go. How are you keeping your pH up over 8? I am not keeping my pH up. So I use Kato, an algae bed, to keep my pH balanced overnight, and that does help. I currently have my window open in here, and I have tried to have a window open in the room with the tank is in at all times, but I'm not at the moment. I don't really care about pH that much, but that's changing because all the people that I respect in the hobby and listen to talk about pH a lot. So it's never been, I don't think it's a massive issue, but I think you will probably see benefits. So Calcwasser is probably the easiest way to go. In fact, Calc, Jim Telegram is, he did a video on this week that was on a complete guide to Calcwasser, which I haven't watched yet. I've never done calc, but I will be doing it soon. And I'm going to go back and watch that. It's 2.5 hours long, so get yourself a cup of tea. But go and watch that. That's probably the best way. Is it all right to put our reefing Discord in here? We are trying to get more English reefers. I don't know what a reefing Discord is. Discord, I think that's like a Discord server, like a forum, right? Don't really know what that is, I'm afraid. But if you're saying post a link for a reefing community chat or whatever, yeah, please do. YouTube blocks some stuff, so if you're putting a link for a website, it might block it. It's not me, I promise. It blocks comments for random reasons. It blocked one today. Someone said, basically, your tank looks nice. I think it would look better with a bit more white light, and YouTube blocked it. And I found it 2 weeks later. So try posting the link and see if it works. What about competition for T20 event? You love the previous one. Competition, I presume you mean the World Cup I did. I'm going to try to do that again next summer. I wanted to, maybe an annual thing. I don't know, but I want to do it differently. So I'm not going to be doing YouTube channels because it will get boring if it's the same thing. I really want to do fish, a World Cup for fish. So the best tangs, the best wrasses. There's just so many options. I tried to write out a list of groups for the World Cup of fish, but it was difficult narrowing it down. But yeah, I think that's the T20 cricket reference. I'm a big cricket fan, so welcome to the chat. Favorite food, we've done that. What would you say would be a great tank for 2 clownfish? Tank mate for 2 clownfish and a Fluvilevo. The 13.5. There's so many people with those tanks. Ask one of them. I always think that they're so small that I don't know how many more fish I'd want after a pair of clowns. Maybe a goby, a sand sift, what they call the shrimp gobies, something like that. But there's loads of people. Go and check out what they've done. I would probably go for shrimp goby because they're just awesome characters anyway. What would you say would be a great tank mate? Done. Live gold every day over here. Don't know what that means. I think I'm missing something. Any suggestions for innovative marine fusion 10? RBT, red bubble tip anemone. What else? Small tank, as little as possible. Morning from Australia. Bonza, g'day. Ashes is coming up soon. I've got a feeling that's going to be a nasty result for us Brits. Kessel A160WE light running. ATF in the house. He knows his stuff. I love Kessel so much. It's just that I find they're quite weak for SPS tanks. Although the new one, the A500X, looks good, but it's pricey. Hope all is well. How would you define stability? Oh, Mike Johnson, you ask some questions there. I'm 7 months into the new build. Alka stay between 8.5 and 9. Nitrate 10 to 12. Phosphate 0.1 to 0.01 to 0.03. And having issues. I mean, if that's the range that your parameters are in, that is the definition of stability. That's spot on. Having issues with SB sting after a month or so. If they're stinging each other, they're too close. I don't know if that's what you're saying. But yeah. Backshift reefer, prestige reef buying it. I couldn't possibly say. Matthew Green, evening. Dodger, hi Alex Newbie, welcome. Jay's Real Reef is in the house. Oh, this is disappointing. I'm going to be shown up by a professional live streamer here. Love a reef talk live stream on a Sunday. Love a Nano. Can we have a tank? Can we have a tank? Your tank? Hang on. Love a Nano. Can we have a tank? Your Nano? I don't know what that means. A photo update? Are you going to Coraltastic? Yes, provisionally I am. I caught up on your live stream yesterday. And someone, Nick Chan, I think, was saying that it's still going ahead. I've not seen much. I'd like them to promote it more. It's Amine Aquatics. They actually asked me if I'd like to go, so I might be going as a guest of theirs. But I'm not going to be filming because it's so much work to do that. But yeah, I should be going. My bubble tip anemone isn't too picky. There we go. We've got some advice from Brymac1. Gary Disher, have you had a chance to see your new Orphec icon light in person? No, Orphec icon. I feel like I might have heard of that. But no, I think I might have seen it, but I don't know. I do like Orphec. I like my Orphec bar, but I don't know. I don't think I'd ever have the Orphecs, the full Orphecs. So yeah, I don't know. Orphec icon though. I feel like I've heard of that. Tell me more about it. I can't remember what it looks like. I have Aptasia plague. I think I'm going to leave the hobby. Don't leave the hobby for Aptasia, but I get it because it's a pain in the backside. But you can do things about it. Bergia Nudibranchs. I can't remember if it was you who were talking about it. I think it was the Dubai chap, so someone else maybe. But get Bergias if you haven't got wrasses, or if you have, take the wrasses out, sell them, and use Bergias. I know you're on the dark side, marine, but have you ever wandered to the light side, tropical? Joe, I've discussed that earlier. No, not for me. I really love reef tanks, but I can't imagine the stress of waking up and seeing all my corals bleached and fish floating stressful. Yeah, that's never happened to me, fortunately, and I think that's quite a rare event. But if you're on forums and Facebook groups enough, you do see it. So really sad. Well, Suv porridge going to Aquashella. No, I believe that's in the States. Too far for me and too expensive to get there. I'd like to go to one of those, but not at the moment. 15 years of reefing. Water change is the answer, though this... What? 15 years of reefing here. Water change is the answer, though. This hobby, sorry. I think you're saying water changes are good, in which case I agree. Discord server, message retracted, sound woo. What are your thoughts on a Regal Tang in 100-gallon? Short term, no problem. Long term, problem. They're quite active fish. I've seen them in smaller tanks, supposedly fine, but they're very active. And I saw one not that long ago in a smaller tank than that, just swimming constantly back and forwards. And I don't know. Short term, though, you'll be fine. But personally, I would move them on. 100-gallon tanks, and my tank is around that kind of level. And I've got a cold tank. And I found the zebra soma, the purple Tang, got a bit feisty, and they're smaller and require less space than a hippo Tang, what they call Regal Tang. So personally, I'd avoid it. But if you want to do it, then crack on. Certainly short term. I have a Reefer 625 XXL. Struggling with intensity of water movement as I'm getting dusting on the end pane. If it's dusting on the end pane, that's normal. It's glass, you get that anyway, so that'll be just wipe it off every day or every couple of times a week. If you're struggling with water movement, buy more powerheads. I don't know what you've got. MP40s are great, they're what I use. But yeah, you'll need a lot of power heads in a tank that size. Nice size tank, by the way. Mark Migliorini. I need help. I have had a Thromia starfish over a week and I haven't seen him eat. I even tried enticing him with shrimp, but doesn't go after it. I've never had one of those. I couldn't even tell you what it looks like. The proper starfish are generally a bit more difficult to keep. And some of the starfish, I don't think we even know what they eat. So I don't know. I can't really suggest anything for that, to be honest. But look around. I've never had one. Look around and do some research if you can. You probably already have, but I can't help. What are your opinions on 3 fish in a 20-gallon nano? Corplex, it depends on what fish they are. 20 gallons is 80 litres UK, which is okay. You probably, if they're small, that's fine. If they're bigger, a lot of fish poo. What's your thoughts on Neptune and BRS merging? So I covered this off a little bit recently. I'm not really... I mean, being in the UK, I don't see as much and I don't get involved as much as our friends across the pond. So I don't really have as informed an opinion. I get why people are concerned because standard economics is corner the market and raise the prices. So I get why people are concerned. And ultimately, BRS is the good guy and Ryan is as straight and down the line as you could want. So I think that's a positive influence. But if there's a private equity company there, they've got shareholders to answer to. They want money. So I get the concern. It doesn't concern me personally. As long as the likes of Ryan are there and probably other people behind the scenes at BRS, they're good people. So I don't think it's an issue. But wait and see. I don't know the answer, to be honest. And I think people are right to be concerned. I'm not, and I see the good side, but I understand why people are concerned, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Recognize. I have a new tank, 90-gallon set up for 4 months. Want to be SPS. Is it too soon? I do have some diatoms. Is it too soon? I mean, try some tester SPS corals. Monty's. What have I got in mind? Staghorn aqua is probably not the best thing. Montipora. Get some Monty's. Chuck them in. See how you get on. They're cheap and they're hardy, and just see how you go. But as long as you're testing your alkalinity regularly, and you know what your nutrients are, then you might be okay. 4 months is probably a little bit early. The better answer is 4 months is too early. Wait. I think it probably is a little bit soon, but I think I would, if it were me, I would put a couple of cheap, hardy tester SBS in there and give them a good 2 or 3 months to see how they get on before you go any further. But don't spend too much money because you might find that you lose corals. I bought a coral on Friday, an Aquapora, and it died within hours of going in my tank, and it was 80 quid. So gutted. Mo.D. Hi Alex, I've got a new unopened Fluval Flex 123. I think that's the bow fronted one, isn't it? Would you start with corals and clean up crew, then fish later? No. I think I've read somewhere that's the better way to start. So Jake Adams says that. He puts corals in straight away. And someone like him, an experienced guy who knows what he's doing, can probably make it work. Your average newbie, in my opinion, it's a really bad idea to put corals in first. Really bad idea. Put fish in, get everything up and running. Even if corals don't need the tank to cycle because they're on a piece of live rock effectively, so they increase your bacteria and they provide filtration. I don't know. Even if that's the case, corals they don't do well in new tanks with swinging parameters and all sorts of chemistry that we can't see going on. So no, absolutely not. And anybody who puts corals in early doors tends to have problems, as in before fish that early. People do your water change. Raymond, yeah, he's a big fan of water changes, our Raymond. What are your opinions on three fish? Done that. Fromia starfish, done that. I have a QT tank with a sponge filter seeded with bacteria. Any tips on keeping ammonia low? As long as you've got a decent enough size sponge filter, that should be it. You can put some live rock in there, but if you're treating with things like copper, live rock can absorb the copper. But yeah, so some kind of filter medium might have the same problem. You should just always be the same. And if you don't have fish in there all the time, it's best to put something like a molly in because they're tough. They can stay in there all the time, so they will keep it cycled, and then you can just add a fish whenever you want to buy one, and then it's cycled. It's still running. Do you think water box tanks are worth it? Yes, I do. I like water box tanks. They're different from Red Sea, but they're better in some ways and worse in others. I think the plumbing is better on, well, no, I don't think the plumbing is better. The plumbing is vastly superior on the water box because I just don't like the Red Sea diaphragm. It's difficult to adjust and keep it running silently. But I don't think the quality of the tank and the glass in the cabinet is quite as good as the Red Sea tanks. Although, to be honest, you put them side by side, you'd probably struggle to see the difference. It's minor differences, but they're both really good. I've got one of each. They're both brilliant. If I was going to buy a new one today as my main tank, I like the layout of the Red Sea sumps. I don't like the plumbing. I do like the plumbing on the water boxes. It would be a really tough call, but they're both good and either will be fine. Mark, I need help with a Fromia starfish. We've done that. Question, Courtney Witt. I just got a 180 gallon with a canopy. What light would you recommend? I've never had a tank with a canopy, but anything that is, well, I guess the issue there is assuming the canopy is quite low, you need something that doesn't mind being close to the surface. So something with good spread, maybe a Kessel. I don't know. Go on a forum and find other people who've used canopies and see what's what. But if you've got a high canopy, whatever light you want, my friend. Recently added a Chekhov return pump. Very happy with it. Good man. Hi from Poland. Question: what do you think about the Senai Reef par meter? I think I've got it down here. I was going to show you it, but I don't know where it is. It's good. It's the tests. BRS did test on this against expensive Apogee par meters, and they came out pretty much the same. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but as long as it's within 20% of the true value, it's fine. So if you're testing it and you're wanting to get everything perfect, it's probably not using the tool the right way. But if you're just thinking, you know what, is my par here 200 or 300 or 250 or 250 or 300, that's fine, and it'll do a rough amount. So don't take it as gospel, but they're great. They're really good. I don't like they've got other features that aren't great, but they're handy to have. It's a bit of a jack of all trades, really, but it's a good piece of kit and worth having around. Red Scott, for manifold, what valve pump size would you recommend for UV phosphate reactor, algae scrubber, and possibly a carbon reactor? I would recommend. Do you know what? So I have a manifold on my tank, but I hate it. Now I've come to hate it. I really liked it for a while, and they're fine. A lot of people get on with them fine, and I'm probably being a bit dramatic here, but the problem I have is that if you run several things on it. So I had a phosphate reactor, in fact, 2 phosphate reactors, a carbon reactor, and UV running off it. Activated carbon tends to block up quite quickly. And when that clogs, because all of the water is going through the same system, it means you get less water flow through your carbon because it's clogged. And then water takes the path of least resistance, probably standard fluid dynamics, I don't know. But it takes the path of least resistance and it goes through your other filters. So it will increase the speed of the water flow through your UV sterilizer, which you do not want. And the same story with phosphate reactors. So they're kind of they're a jack of all trades, master of none. So I would go but for all of those, to answer your question, UV. It depends what size. Depends what size your tank is, but I would probably go UV phosphate, algae scrubber. Never had an algae scrubber, so I don't know what how much flow they like. Probably quite a lot. Probably go. Yeah, I have a Jekyll DCP 8000. I reckon a DCP 8000 might be a good bet because there's not much head height on a manifold. So that might be okay. That was what I was going to suggest, to be honest. And you can always turn it down. Leave a like on the vid. Yes, leave a like. 53 likes. Whoop, whoop. Good evening, Alex. Hope you're well. I am well. Thanks, Reef Talk. That is, in fact, the pumps I've been looking at, so we'll go get for them. Evening, sorry for the late arrival. NB Reefing. Man, where have you been? I gave you like 10 minutes notice. Will fish eat bacon? What? Will fish eat bacon done in a Ninja air fryer for 160 at 8 minutes? Neil, that's the craziest question I've ever heard in my life. However, bacon is delicious and is the cure for vegetarianism. So yeah, why not? Try it. No, don't try it. That sounds like a terrible thing to feed fish, to be honest. But yeah, cool. I've never heard anyone do it, so pioneer. Do you think a Tomini Tang and a cold Tang would be okay in an EA Reef Pro together? My cold Tang is okay in a bigger tank than that, a 1200. Maybe. Try it. They're both small, so add them together. What's his name? Prestige Reef did a video on how to keep multiple tanks. So search that down and check it out. It's a really good video, and he's kept far more tanks than I have. But I think if you want my answer, probably yes, but keep an eye on it. And with any fish like that, with aggression, when you're taking a risk on fish, and I take a risk on fish that I think might be aggressive or coral eaters, make sure you have a fish trap on hand, because when things go south and they go nasty, it can get really nasty really quick with aggressive fish. I've never had that, fortunately, but can be nasty. So you want to be able to fish them out easily. And a fish trap, in my experience, is the best way to do that. What's the camera? Sony and Canon released drivers so they can work natively as webcams. So this is a Fuji X-T4. It can't work natively. Or I think there's Fuji software, but it's rubbish. But I've got an Elgato Camlink 4K that should work. It's just because I'm new to the software. C3DPO, you'll get there. OBS is good. Will be named something different for capture video input. Something random that doesn't make sense. See, I got that far. That wasn't the problem. It's just, anyway, we don't want to talk about technical difficulties with live streams. But yeah, thanks for the heads up. I'll go and have a look anyway. Dino will happen in new tanks or when you have too much silicon. Shouldn't do. It really shouldn't. Dino flagellates should not happen. As a general rule, it seems to be that it's much more common nowadays than it used to be. A lot of the theory says it's because of LED lights, but they shouldn't happen. It's not. You should have your algae blooms, like your diatoms and all that sort of stuff, but you shouldn't have a Dino stage. If you have a Dino stage, you're doing something wrong. And I've had a Dino stage on my tank, and I was doing something wrong. So it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be something that will happen. Ian Rodber, house fell through, so smashing other chimney breasts out, and new 8-footer going in at the other end of the lounge. So Ian is, I've bought a few corals off him, and he was setting up a new tank. I thought, do you know what? I thought I'd seen him setting up. Ian, I thought I'd seen you on Facebook setting up the new tank at the end of your garden, or maybe on Ultimate Reef. But anyway, 8-footer sounds banging. I'm guessing you're going for reef breeders, Evergrays. Extravaganza. What do you think about water box all-in-one aquariums? Never seen one, I don't think. But yeah, they look all right. Check out Bearded Reef. He's got the Waterbox Mini 25, possibly 15. Don't know what it is, but they look all right. How do you set up a Pk tank? No idea. I don't like the idea of a Pk tank. I think they would be quite difficult. But check out Remy. What's his name? Bahama Llama Coral. He has got a Pico algae tank, and I wonder if he might have something else as well. But I don't know. Who knows? YOLO, test a coral. It is lol. Thanks. Message retracted. Hello, hi all. Where's the best place to get decent SPS frags? Kevin, are you in the UK? Because if you are, Ultimate Reef is the best place, in my humble opinion, to get decent SPS frags. I did a live stream where I lifted a few places though. But Ultimate Reef, I sell stuff on Ultimate Reef. Sometimes nice stuff. Actually, always nice stuff, obviously. But go on Ultimate Reef. It's a good place. Nice to see you. I love your vids. Hi from Spain. Hola Alvaro Shamac. I was in Spain recently. I love Spain. I love the Spanish. I love everything about Spain is fantastic. Love it. Overland and aquatics. Would you say that you can get by without dosing and just doing water changes when keeping soft and LPS corals? Probably. No, it's not whiskey. Recognise it's beer. Well, probably, but on my tank recently, my Nano tank that I set up, I found that even with, I don't think I had stony coral. I don't think I had SPS in there. I think my levels were dropping. So just test and see. You probably can for certainly 6 months, but dosing is not as difficult as it seems, especially if you get something like Alpha Reef. It's one product. You add it, get a dosing pump, add it automatically, start very, very slowly. But you might be okay, especially softies. LPS, pushing it a little bit. Better just to test regularly and add some stuff if you need to. Stuff being alkalinity, calcium and magnesium. So Alpha Reef is a good one. I've been running BRS 2-part for 5 months now. My calcium level have stayed consistent without dosing. Is that normal? Calcium level has stayed consistent without dosing. I dose about 30 ml a day, but no calc. If you've got corals in there, that's a bit unusual. And even if you haven't, to be fair, things like what's the calcareous algae, coralline algae takes that. So I would check this is one of the occasions when I would double check that test result. So get a different calcium test kit and test it. Because in theory it should go down. Well, no in theory about it. That should be going down. That's weird. Have you ever used Reef Enhance over an extended time? I have never heard of Reef Enhance, so I'm going to Google it to find out what it is. It looks like, is it coral food? Reef Enhance. Microplankton concentrate. Oh, I've seen that stuff actually. No, I haven't. So I've just picked up some Benepets, which was an Ian Rodber recommendation. I haven't started using it yet, but it sounds like good stuff. So have a look at that. Oh, we've got a super chat. I can't see the comment. I don't think there is a comment, but thank you, my friend, from your super chat. Tell me that's a spice rum and not apple juice you're drinking. I do like spice rum, to be fair. But no, it is not. It is cerveza. Crypto satellites. Education is free. I only have a small reef tank, but I'm hoping to learn a bit here. Good man. Welcome. Watch all my videos. They're brilliant. Nikolai Morel, do you find that Brexit has affected the hobby negatively in the UK? I live in Denmark and I really miss being able to shop from the UK websites. Oh, Nikolai, you're opening a can of worms there. It's a hot topic, Brexit. Has it? Yeah, kind of, yeah. I think manufacturers struggle to get stuff over here as cheaply as before. I used to buy corals occasionally from Euro Corals in Germany, which is a fantastic place, and I can't anymore because of Brexit. So it's negatively impacted it for me. They have really nice corals there as well. And generally I've bought, so not necessarily reefing stuff, but I've bought some other things from the EU, either from shops or from people on Facebook or whatever. And you have to pay import duties, which just drives me crazy. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, to be honest, but hey, the country has voted. What's your opinion on captive bred yellow tangs? I need a drink for this. My opinion on captive bred yellow tangs is that then, for a start, I don't really like yellow tangs anyway. I'm in the minority there, I think, but I don't particularly like the captive bred yellow tangs. I love that we're captive breeding. We, the hobby, are captive breeding more fish, and yellow tangs are just such an amazing fish to breed captively. But I find they look a bit, I don't know, they look a bit rubbish, quite honestly. They just look a bit, I don't know, they're a bit see-through. They're not as nice looking as the stable wild caught ones. So, and they're expensive. So I don't know. I'd like to see what one looks like when you get it in your tank. It's in a nice settled environment, surrounded by corals, other fish. So it's normal, it's less stressed, and it's getting good nutrition. You feed it well. You feed it with nori and meaty food as well. I'd like to see that, but I don't know. I'd like to see how they turn out long term. But I wouldn't buy one. But then it's partly because I don't want to spend that much money on a fish, partly because I don't like yellow tangs, and partly because I think they don't look quite so good as wild caught tangs. And also, I'm not convinced they're any better in terms of risk of white spot. In theory, they don't have diseases because they're not in the wild and they're in clean tanks where people look after them, because it's important that they grow and develop without diseases, so they're pest free. But they then go into holding tanks, and when they're shipped over to various countries and then into aquarium shops with other fish, and the other fish, guess what? They come from the sea. So I'm not convinced that's necessarily a benefit. Orphec Icon is like the Atlantic V4, but twice as big. That's a big piece of kit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever have an Orphec. That sounds cool. But it's there was one guy I saw, his tank was, it was in Reading. His tank was amazing and it looked fantastic, but I didn't like the look of the Orphecs. The color was great. I think the shimmer was it just wasn't to my taste. Evening all, did you just call Jay a professional live streamer? Yes, I did, yeah. But fair point. What else have we got? Just bought a baby Watchman Goby the size of my fingernail. Any recommendations to make sure he gets big and healthy? So I bought a Wheeler's. It was it wasn't a Wheeler's. It was the other one, the orange and white stripe one that was very small, not that small. If it's genuinely the size of your fingernail, I mean, good luck, because he's going to be extremely timid, not going to want to compete with anything for food. But a fish that small, just feed little and often, as much as you can, basically. Yeah, don't get anything that's aggressive. Hawkfish do chase gobies sometimes, so don't get anything like that. Try to keep them chilled out. Just come back to the hobby. Welcome. Have you ever been to Vivarium in the Netherlands? No, I've never. Oh no, I have been to Holland. I went to Holland, the Netherlands. I went to Amsterdam once, but that's about it. I've never been to any shops. It was with work, so it was a boring trip. 40 years old, and I live with my mum on her couch, and I don't want to get a job. Any advice? Is this like, am I an agony uncle now? Is this just like general life advice? Get a fish tank. They're wicked, and make your mum pay for it. And Preachy says hide in the couch. Good side. Good suggestion. Just bought a baby Watchman. Yeah, done that. Lol. Mike Johnson. Can't remember what we were talking about, but yeah, both. Here we go. Zigzagoon. Right, we're fast forwarding to the super chat. Just bought a baby Watchman Goby the size of my fingernail. There we go. This is an edited version. Any recommendations to make sure he gets big and healthy? 32 gallon, 5 friendly tank mates. Well, you've got off to the right start with friendly tank mates. 32 gallon, what's that? 120 litres. A little bit smaller than my tank. It's a little bit heavy stocking, I would say, actually. But just, if you can feed little and often, if you can put food, if you'll presumably know where he is, if you can put a little, like cut the end off a 2-litre bottle of Coke, put a load of holes in it, and then put food in there and like cap that over his area so no one can nick it. That might be an idea, but just turn your flow pumps off maybe. I don't know. As long as he's eating, you'll be all right, and eating regularly. But that's a really small fish. Never seen one that small. So that might be difficult. Have you tried the Red Sea Reef Energy AB Plus coral food? I have. I've done a long-term review, in fact. I kind of like it, kind of don't like it. I find that, or I was always concerned that it was feeding everything else in my tank, filter feeders, vermitid snails, who someone's just mentioned as well. Can I tell you how to get rid of vermitid snails? No, I can't. It's the honest answer. Manual removal, get a few bumblebee snails, they might work. But they're a pain, vermitids. So AB Plus, yeah, it's good stuff, and it definitely works. It helped with my scully. I fed my scully, and it helped with that, so for sure. But watch the video, watch the long-term review. I talk about it in a lot more detail. Hello from Cyprus. Hello. I was about to say something in Greek, but it was going to be thank you, not hello. I can't remember what hello is. And you might not be a Greek Cypriot. George Dunn, can you talk about Triton and dosing? I've never used Triton. How critical is it to have your dosing pump dosing the same amount from the 4 heads? I can't calibrate the pump. So I don't know if Triton requires the same level of everything. ATI Essentials Pro, which is what I have 2 bottles, and you dose equal amounts of both in theory. But test everything, test your alkalinity, test your calcium and your magnesium, and adjust it accordingly. But I don't have any experience with Triton, I'm afraid. Dean Fielding, Josh, you need to find out what the floor joist. Okay, you're giving carpentry advice. Josh 10, in Spain, buildings are built to withstand 400 kilograms per square meter. Wicked. Zigzag, he's going in order. I've just seen 5 times. So Zigzag, you posted it 5 times. Sorry, I didn't get to you, but I think if that's not a thorough answer, let me know. But there we go. Yep, done that. Captive bred yellow tangs, see them amazing. I love the fact that they're captive breeding them. You've copy and pasted what I said, Dean. I have a Fowler, or maybe I've copied what you said. I have a Fowler tank right now, filtered by live rock, hangback skimmer, and a protein skimmer without requiring any additional equipment and chemicals. Is it possible to add corals at all? Thanks. Sure, why not? Have a crack. See how you get on. Start with softies, but sounds like you've got a nice enough setup. But I would test first off, actually, before you do that, test all your parameters. Salinity, in particular, that might be off if it's fish only. Alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, nitrate, and phosphate. Test all of those, and if they're good, put in a testicle. We need so much more sustainability in this hobby. 100%, we really do. We need to stop pulling corals out of the sea, I think. And I don't feel like we don't need to. I bought a wild caught acro this weekend, and it died straight away. I hate wild acros. I don't know why I do it to myself. I have a Red Sea Reef for 350 in dose. It's 14 months. I don't change the water in the sump. I don't change the water in the sump completely every week, and everything is doing good. Great. Vivarium is similar to Aquashella. Oh, I see. Thank you, Simon. That's cool. I'll look that up, actually. Sounds all right. Best advice for the 40-year-old, exactly what I was going to say. James Real UK, the pro live streamer. I want a Scully exactly like the one of your artwork. Please help. Jay, if you want to buy one of those, mate, you're going to need to stop being such a Yorkshireman, because something like that would be bloody expensive. I bought a knackered old war paint Scully that was on its last legs and about to die, knowing that I could recover it because it's easy to do, and that was 50 quid, so it's quite expensive. But that looks like a master ultra uber Scully. So yeah, you're gonna have to get some more sponsorship money from Yorkshire Tea. When cycling, would you have the power heads running? Yes, I would. Easy, simple question. Always have the power heads running. Which do you prefer? Red Sea Salt or Red Sea Coral Pro? I use Coral standard stuff, the blue bucket, because it's similar to my parameters that I aim for in my tank. So that's what I use. And the BRS test showed that the parameters on Coral Pro swing a little bit over time, and I like to store salt water for weeks on end. But with that being said, what's his name? Abe. I can't remember what it's called now. There's the YouTube channel that I recently voted the most important in the world. I can't remember what it's called, but check out his channel. Someone will say in the comments. He uses Red Sea Coral Pro, and his tanks are just unbelievable. So I'll remember what his name is in a minute. I do have Plating Monty, Jack-o'-lantern. They're growing like mad. Wicked. Jason Price, when cycling, all things should be running. Correct. How often do you do live streams? Just discovered your channel hours ago as I was exploring saltwater tanks for beginners. Well, this is the second one I've ever done. I've only ever done one before. It was about a month ago, but I want to do them regularly. I'm going to do one soon with a guest from my local fish shop, the Ocean Project. He is a bit of an SPS guru, so I'm going to get him on and do a chat with him. But we'll see. I want to do them all the time, and it will be on a Sunday evening. What's the most controversial topic in your opinion? Oh, probably quarantine. And I've given my opinions on quarantine that a lot of people don't like. So go and check out my quarantine videos and don't hate me. Do you have any experience with jellyfish tanks? No, I don't. Are they in the same category as our usual saltwater mix? They're quite difficult, I think, because they're so delicate and they need circulating flow. So I think they're quite tricky to get right. There was a guy, maybe even Prestige Reef did one. You know, there was someone who did. Maybe it was Dan's Reef, and which I think is now a defunct channel. I think it's been deleted, but no experience. I also think they're a bit boring, to be completely honest. They just go round and round and round in circles. Whereas the beauty for me of marine tanks is just the variety and the behaviours and the interactions and everything. So, but no, anyway, if that's what you want, do it. Good evening. Sorry, I've already answered your question, but where did you get that awesome pic behind you on the thread? Russell Murphy. Coraldesign.pl, which I think is the name of the website. It's in Poland, but it was a guy on Instagram, and the Instagram handle is coraldesign.pl, I believe. They're cool. They were 40 quid each. I think they were 40 quid each, maybe a little bit more. It was in euros or zloty, I forget. And then postage on top of that. But they're really cool. They're nice. I like them. Coral Euphoria, that's it. Thank you, Uploads by Tom. Yes, such a good channel, and he uses Coral Pro Salt, or I think he said he did once in a video. If you could do a freshwater tank, what would you stock it with? So I've said a couple of times I don't like freshwaters, but I do like the Adolphoi Corridoras. I really like what are the brown gouramis called? Chocolate gouramis, maybe. They're nice. Neon Tetras, of course. Simple, peaceful fish. I don't like aggression. I'm very sensitive to aggression in any of my tanks. So simple, peaceful, bright, colourful fish. But you don't get many, in my opinion, colourful, interesting fish in freshwater. But Adolphoi Corridoras would be up there, but they're expensive. I think they were, I don't know, a couple hundred quid each. They're crazy money. Is there an ATO that actually measures salinity? I can't get on with ones that measure water levels. It's far too much of a faff. If that's a faff, then you've got other issues with your tank, I would say, because I never test salinity. Once every couple of years. Well, no, actually, that's exaggerating. Once every 6 months, just to make sure, and it's always fine or more or less fine. So I've never seen one that measures salinity, but I wouldn't want one because salinity probes fade over time, and I would rather not trust that. So it should be fine. I've never heard anyone ask for that, actually. So I'd be interested to know what you're doing. Maybe it's a small tank, I don't know. But no, the normal ones are brilliant. I use Reef Float for this tank. Reef Float, which is a UK company. And then Tunzi is on my main tank now. They're both very good. Pros and cons, but they're as good as each other, really. The Tunzi is loud. Anyone got a Tunzi osmolator? The pump I have, I got it brand new. It is so loud. And I watched a ton of videos before and no one mentioned that the pump's loud. So have I got a faulty one or a Tunzi osmolator is just really noisy? I did ask around a little bit and I think they are a little bit noisy, but I don't know. No one mentioned it. Tell me, if you've got an osmolator, is it noisy? You voted Parker's Reef the most important. No, I did not. That was the World Cup of reefing channels. I didn't vote for the World Cup. You guys did. The video that I did recently was called My Unpopular Opinion on Your Favorite YouTubers. And it was a list of what I consider to be the most important, not the best, the most important YouTube channels in the world. And Coral Euphoria is up there. But there are others as well. Devon from Reef Dudes. Telegram, massively underrated channel. Telegram, Telegraham. Go and check him out if you haven't. He only does live streams, so you've got to be interested in long videos, but just brilliant. Have you still got Aptasia in your aquarium? Yes, I have, but I only have it in my weir box and in my sump because I have a copper-banded butterfly that eats it everywhere else. Thank you for answering my question. You're welcome, Skylar. Sov Porridge. Just listening to someone talking about reef tanks is so relaxing. Glad that reef builders are doing some reef therapy podcasts. And I need more. What was Terence from Neptune did a podcast, the Skimate podcast, I think it was called. That was really good. I enjoyed that. I can't remember who it was with, but there are others as well. Jeff from Mad Hatter's Reef did one, although it was just him, and I prefer it when there are two people. But yeah, I don't know if there are any more reefing podcasts, to be fair. Aptasia, I just spray it with a small syringe filled with calc solution, takes care of them easily. Hello from the beautiful coastline that is Milleen in Northern Ireland. Sounds lovely, although I suspect it's as cold there as it is here. But hello, Susie, welcome. Do you think it's ethical to keep mollies in salt water, even if acclimated slowly? I've never done it. I don't really know an awful lot about it. I think I'm right in saying that they can be found in brackish waters in the wild, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Mollies live in coastal lagoons naturally. There you go. So I personally wouldn't have an ethical problem with it. The problem that I would have with it is I wouldn't want them to die in my care if I'm acclimating them, and more to the point, I wouldn't want them to get pecked to death by other fish like clownfish or to blown around in strong flow. But ethically, I've got no problem with it personally. Going to start my first marine tank in a week. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, they're noisy. I can't. Oh yes, So Simon, you find the tunsies noisy, right? Why doesn't anyone tell you that? Watch so many YouTube videos and people don't say it. I need to do a video. Watch this before you get a tunsy osmolator, and tell people that they're noisy. They're great, but it's just so noisy. It does my nut in. I don't think I'd have bought it if I knew it was so loud. I think you can replace the pump, but yeah, a little white pump that comes with the tunsy, at least the one I got, is a noisy bugger. Why don't people tell you this when they make reviews? Anyway, how do you set up a Pk Reef? Never done it. Matt Baker, presumably not the Matt Baker. Never done it, I'm afraid. Small amount of live rock and a tiny fish, I would guess. Fortunately, doesn't run continuously. Yeah, damn right, Simon. Thanks for the 8-year advice. I'll maybe try a tunsy one. Just been doing a lot of taking in and out bits of water and bits of algae. Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess maybe that's what's changing it. But I think the conundrum for you regarding freshwater fishes is the very fishes known to compare to marine fishes in terms of personality appearance are cichlids are unfortunately largely aggressive. So I looked at cichlids. I was going to go for a cichlid tank as a halfway house. But they're just, even then, they are aggressive. You're absolutely right. Well, you probably know a lot more than I do, but yeah, they're by reputation super aggressive. But I also find that the libido chromis are obviously quite bright, but they're not my cup of tea. Even then, they're just not as interesting. They don't have like laterally compressed shapes and all this sort of stuff. Really, the cool stuff that you get from marine tanks. We have Telegram in the house. Thanks, Telegram. Very nice of you. Thanks, Jim. Kind of you to leave a super chat. You might have heard me already singing your praises. Jim's great, and I'm going to be watching your calc Wassa video at some point when I've got 2.5 hours. So yeah, looking forward to that. Thank you for tons of info here from Canada. Hang on, let's wind back. Suggestions for easy and forgiving SPS. There's loads. Possidipora are good, although I don't personally like them. I think they're a little bit boring. Seriatopora is Seriatopora guttatus, and Seriatopora hystrix, also known as bird's nest, is a good one. Seriatopora caliendrum is a nicer looking bird's nest. That's also a good one. Montiporas are easy. Stay away from the likes of Gold Rush Monty, Beach Bum, and all those types. They're a bit more tricky, but your normal branching and plating Montiporas are good bets as well. I'm pretty sure I've done a beginner SPS video, top 7 SPS maybe. But there's loads, there's tons. If I was going to recommend one, Monte Undata is a lovely, lovely coral. So have a look at one of those. Love your channel. Recently purchased my first Jebao MDC pump. Ooh. And it's exactly as quiet as you described. I just can't say anything negative about it at this point. They're great. There's nothing wrong with them. They're really good. Because some people get snobby about Jecod stuff. And in my experience, it's generally fine, especially the return pumps. But equally, people get a bit upset about expensive equipment, saying Radions are a waste of money or Vectra return pumps are a waste of money. They're not. They're really good. It's just what your priority is and all that sort of stuff. Mollies live in brackish water, so I guess it is unethical to have them in salt water. It is as unethical to have them in salt water as it is fresh water. Who knows? Question: is there a problem using fresh seawater in your tank? If you can get a clean source, and I've never done this, so I don't know for sure, but if you can get a clean source of salt water, usually not from the coast, then no, loads of people do it and it's great. but I would be concerned about just particles that you get scooped up in there. But no, in theory, there's nothing wrong with it. The salinity might be different. Salinity, funnily enough, varies quite significantly in the ocean. But test the parameters, see if it's okay, and use it. But do a bit more research from someone who's done it, because I'll try to give you my opinion. But if I don't know, if I've never used it, then it's just what I've read. So who knows? Jake Adams has tanked with mollies, and they are fine. Yeah, there you go. And Jake Adams knows his stuff. Thanks for your and everybody's input. Might give some large sailfin mollies a try. I feel like I'm advocating sailfin mollies now. I'm not. Just saying. Reefing with me. Hey, long time fan. Hey, reefing with me. I think I saw your name come up in the Jay's Real Reef, Bearded Reef, etc. Live chat the other day. Thanks for this amazing session, but I have to hop. Ciao. Oh, here we go. Dean Fielding has a super chat. Thank you, Dean. Very kind of you. Thank you for all the advice. Corals I've had success with in my new tank have not been beach bum crazy tea. I sadly lost. Yeah, I think they're a bit more tricky than more normal Montiporas. You have, and they cost a fortune. You're damn right they do, Dean. Had great success with Setosa and Emerald Cyphastria. Never heard of an Emerald Cyphastria. Sounds nice. I like Cyphastria. Monty Setosa, I'm slightly surprised that you've had success with that and not the others, because I find that possibly on the tough side of Montiporas to keep. Who knows? Anyway, I never knew you could get 24K Indo gold torches. I've heard the other ones just bail out in an aquarium. Anyone managed to keep one in the chat? So, Jay, that's exactly why I didn't get the Aussie one. I almost did actually. I almost bought one, but it was just 450 quid. So I'm not paying that much money. But no, you can get them. I didn't know you could either, and I found them. But yeah, I watched the Tidal Gardens video, and apparently they're just the Aussie ones are in estuaries, so they're totally different conditions to what we keep them. But you can do. It was expensive. Mine was 200 quid for that tiny little head, which I paid through gritted teeth. But yeah, I don't know. Some people do keep Aussie gold torches long term though, but I felt like everything in this hobby is a risk, isn't it? Some things are very low risk, some things are high risk. I saw Aussie gold torches after doing a bit of research as probably higher risk than I'm prepared to accept, given the price. If they were cheaper, I might not be quite so reticent. Matt Baker set up a Pk Reef. Fish Palace in the house. Hi Paul, how you doing? Nick Chan, hi Nick, how you doing? Telegram, hello, yes. TH, as a Brit who moved to the US, I keep hearing about the Brexit shop stock issues. Are you seeing this in an aquarium back in Blighty? So I'm not going to get into Brexit because it's a bad topic, and I don't like politics anyway. But things like Brexit and COVID have caused problems with stocking. So yeah, but to be fair, I don't think anything's that bad. You can still get most stuff. Sometimes you've got to be a bit more patient. It's not just the hobby; it's everything. Nick, thank you very much for the super chat. Very kind of you, sir. Keep up the good work, Chris. Right, so I've caught up with chat. Now I did have a couple of bullet points. Where are we? That I made a note of things that I was going to talk about. I think I've probably done most of these. To be fair, one last thing before we wrap it up. Claracy. So I have a Claracy filter roller, SK3000. Donation towards next purchase. I have a Claracy SK3000, and I posted on Instagram recently. It got completely clogged up. The diffusion pipe at the bottom of the Claracy got completely clogged up with snails. Sounds from what I've heard as though that's a common problem. So if you've got one, pull it out and give it a clean every now and then. I think I'm going to have to be cleaning that quite regularly. Oh, I've also bought a new fish that is controversial, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to see it in the background of some of my next videos. Kessels, I've told you about Kessels. Oh, I've got a new video coming soon. I don't know when. It's going to take me a long time. But it's coming. It's going to be a comparison of all of the main lights in the hobby. So hopefully, and I don't have the details yet, but it'll hopefully have Kessels versus Radions versus AI, etc., etc. And that's going to be a really good video. I'm looking forward to making that. It's going to take me a long time to make it though, but I think that would be useful. Decode. Hi Alex, met you yesterday at Moss End. Yeah, you've just bought the S1000. You were spending £1 million on rock, weren't you? How long would you recommend before adding any SPS? A long time. I can't remember your name. I can't remember if we actually exchanged names, as it were, but a long time is the short answer. before SBS. You might want to go for some tester SBS early on, Montes or whatever, but at least a few months. And really, if you can resist for 6 months, in my opinion, other people will say differently, but you're asking me, so I would say 6 months. But try some tester SBS, cheapos early. I sell cheap hardy SBS that you could try. You're obviously local to me, so if you want to try a Monte Undata, hit me up and I'll sort you out. Puffers aren't typically associated with reef tanks, which are clearly your passion. However, do you enjoy puffers? Especially porcupine puffers. So puffers are amazing fish. They're so cool. They're character in spades. Funny little googly human eyes. Big bulbous teeth, front teeth look like rabbits, don't they? Wicked fish. Just so cool. And there's so much variety. Gold puffers, black puffers, the porcupine puffers you mentioned, the little Toby puffers, the stars and stripes puffers. Loads of variety. Amazing fish. But they're not reef compatible. They'll eat your cleanup crew and they'll eat your corals from what I can figure out. So I've never had one and I never would have one for that reason, but it's a shame. There are plenty of fish like that. Angelfish and butterfly fish as well that I won't have because they eat corals and stuff. So shame. Illumagic LEDs. No, Nick, they will not be in the list. I've heard of Illumagic, but I don't know anything about them. I presume you're taking the mic. Puffers, yes, some title on that time. Illumagic, new kid on the block for the UK. I'll take your word for it. I'm planning on getting a 20-gallon all-in-one. Never had a fish tank before. Would you recommend 10 or 20-gallon for a beginner? The bigger, the better, in my opinion. More forgiving, more water volume, more forgiving. I bought an Evergrow for my 1.5 meter reef tank after your recommendation. Amazing purchase in terms of light/money. Yeah, the spread is rubbish. So any corals that you've got that are not directly beneath the, in fact, that's a point to go, but beneath the light might not be getting enough light. I said this on my video on Friday that I think it was Friday that the spread isn't very good, and the image I showed on the video, you might not see it at first glance. It's of the light of the Evergrow light on the floor just before I'd set it up, and it looks like actually on the face of it, it looks like the spread is quite good. But if you look closely, you will see, just pause it at that point, the intensity of the light directly below the unit is really bright. And then even an inch away or 2 inches away, if you look closely, it's very dim. So that was a misleading video clip, but the spread really is rubbish. But raise it up, and they're really good. I'm a big fan, of course. So you should consider visiting Vivarium. It sounds good. Yeah, I like the sound of it. How's your filter roller? Thinking of the bubble magus, my only concern is that if it stops working, we'll be stuck with the filter roller option. What about the clear 4? So the clear, I think, is the one that goes in the filter sock section, just slots straight in. I presume they don't have very good flow ratings, though. I have an X filter and a Clarity. They're both really good. I think I probably just about prefer the X filter. I've had it longer as well. I've had that 3 years. They're both really good. I like them both a lot, though. So either of those would be fine. Bubble magus. I've no idea. I've seen them in the flesh, but I've no idea about them. I don't know. I might be a little bit reluctant to use a bubble magus filter roller, but then if it goes wrong, just water flows out of it and there's no problem. So give it a bash. Why not? Sea Friendly Reef. Uploads by Tom. Sea Friendly Reef kept dwarf lines in his tank. They did really well, but needed a cover. Oh no, he found out, so they jumped. Yeah, I like Sea Friendly Reef. I don't tend to watch the videos, but I check in every now and then. There are some banging tanks on that channel. Just starting out at this hobby, can you recommend a salinity tester? I was looking at the Hannah digital one. So get yourself a refractometer, digital, just an analog refractometer. They are really good. There's also, someone might know this in the chat. There's a what's it called? Is it a hydrometer? It's made by Tropic Marine, and they measure specific gravity that they used in things like brewing, and they're enormous, but they're very accurate, and they don't need recalibrating. They're great. So maybe one of those, but I would get a refractometer. I would steer clear of the Hannah digital salinity pen, to be honest. I have one and I rate it, but as a beginner, you're probably just going to want to chuck it in and test it, but you have to calibrate them. I find quite regularly, and they lose accuracy. So you have to. I never quite feel, because I only test salinity every few months at best. I never quite feel confident in it unless I've calibrated it before I use it. And then you've got to buy calibration sachets. You've got to go through the process of calibrating it. So it's a bit of a faff. So personally, the Nano one is a very good tool, but only for the right application. And if you want one that's just a quick bang, here we go, you can't beat a, what are they called? I just said it, refractometer. They're great. I watched that video. You're right. I can't remember. Nick, we've just bought the Illumagic LEDs into the UK as a distributor, Alex. Happy to give you in for another time. All coral collectors in Oz use them. All right, I'll have a look. If I can chuck them into the... There's one company who's set the company... There's a company who's going to send me all of these lights. Not for free. I'll have to give almost all of them back, but they're going to get hold of them and send them to me for the purpose of the test. If they're happy for me to get hold of that one as well, chuck it in. But the trouble with this is I don't want to expand it too much, because if I'm testing 4 or 5 lights and I want to test it properly, I'll have them over my tank for a week at a time. It's going to be a lot of work. So every single light I add to it will add a significant amount of extra work to it. And I'm already a little bit hesitant about it because it's so much work. But anyway, we'll have a think about it. How much money do you reckon an LFS makes off selling an MP40? I've no idea. Apparently it's 30%. I've heard on some live streams, but I don't know. No idea at all, I'm afraid. What are your thoughts on seahorses? Cool creatures. I'd love them, but they don't like flow, and therefore they would not like my tanks one little bit. Do you plan to compare the ATI Straton in your test? No, I don't. I was about to say it's too big. Maybe it's not actually. BRS unfortunately did not test, and there's not really a comparison. I like the look of the Straton, but I've seen them in the flesh from a guy down in Sussex. I went to buy a coral off him, and it looks great. The color looks nice, but there was zero shimmer. It was like T5s, and for me, I'm a shimmer junkie, so not my cup of tea. Same for the Neptune. What's the Neptune one called? The Sky. Same for the Philips Coral Care. Just not my style, basically. Definitely wouldn't want to try to pick it up. Would definitely be running the kitchen running to get the kitchen thongs first. So I presume uploads by Tom you are Australian, because a thong means something very different in the UK, as I suspect you'll know. Okay, refractometer is, thanks very much. You're welcome. Yeah, get it, honestly, best thing to do. They're quite expensive. I saw a Red Sea one this weekend for 50 quid. I'm sure they were half that price not that long ago, but then COVID, etc. Are water box tanks worth the price, or is buying an Aqueon and going DIY worth it, in your opinion? Never heard of Aqueon, to be honest. And going DIY as in building the tank? I wouldn't do that, but then I'm not bold enough. Our water box tanks are worth it. They are really good. I do like them. Good product info on the Nano salinity meter, indeed. Tongs. Oh, tongs, Tom. Yeah, right. I thought you were talking about thongs. So thongs in Australia are flip-flops, what we call over here, but in the UK, they are ladies' underpants. Anyway, right. I think I'm going to wrap it up now, because this was supposed to be an hour and it's gone on too long. However, first off, thank you all for watching and for contributing. It's been really good having you guys all along. Thank you to the people who left super chats. Very kind of you. And I will do more of these. I want to do one every week, as I say. Probably going to be a little bit of time before I do that, but I will get to that. There are more questions coming in, so let's quickly get to those. If you've got questions, quickly chuck them in. I recently purchased a Waterbox Frag 105.4. I like those tanks. I like that they're low. I understand you're going to do another follow-up review, but at this stage, you still think it's better than Red Sea. I don't think it's better than Red Sea. I think Waterbox are different to Red Sea, but I will for sure be doing a long-term comparison between the two. I don't want to do it at the moment. I've only had the Waterbox 6 months. I've had Red Sea for over 3 years, and I'm still learning things about the Waterbox that I won't know properly until I've done it longer term. I could do one now, but it wouldn't be as good as it will be if I do one in 6 months. I've learned about more about the plumbing, and what I want to know is it clogging over time and all this sort of stuff. So, but I will do one. They're both very good. The answer is going to be they're both very good. They're just both different. Dean Fielding, advice for new reefer to properly calibrated thermometer. Best calibration is to use glass. Get a Sera, S-E-R-A. Can't remember what they're called. Sera thermometer. They're bang on. They are perfect. They're old school not magnesium. What's the mercury or whatever it is. They're great. So get one of those. They're good. But yeah, as long as it's as long as you, it doesn't really. I don't think calibration on temperatures thermometers matters so much because it's the level rather than the exact amount consistency. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Germany Traveller. Got loads of help from Carl. Quick question. You removed your Zebrasoma tangs to introduce your copper band. Would you consider adding a small one back? No, I would not. Zebrasoma tangs are nasty pieces of work, or can be nasty pieces of work. And it just, even without the fact that it was going for my copper band, they're always ever so slightly aggro. And I just don't like it. It's just, it stresses me out because I look over at the tank and I'm like, who are you chasing? What are you chasing him for? So no, the stunning fish, purple tang was gorgeous and it broke my heart to get rid of it. But no, I wouldn't consider reintroducing it. Thank you for answering all my questions. Need your help, please. Right, this is going to be the last one, Lyndon. Need your help, please. 1,000 litres tank, approximately running for over 4 months. I've got a sailfin Tang foxface, magnificent fox, orange spot, hippo. Params good, but put new fish in and they die. Any help? New fish in and they die. You got some aggressive fish in there, to be fair. So maybe it's aggression. Maybe you don't see it. Have a look at puss check, by the way. I know you bought corals off me before. Hello. Have a look at night to see if they're getting chased around. But they shouldn't. They just simply shouldn't be dying. If all your other fish are well, I mean, check your ammonia and your nitrite, but it's unlikely to be a problem if your other fish are there. There's something, I would bet there's something in there killing them or eating them, unless you're not acclimating them properly. I float fish in the bag until the temperature is equalized, half an hour, maybe an hour sometimes. Other people advocate drip acclimating. So I don't know if you're doing that. If you drip acclimate, make sure that the temperature is still the same. So don't drip acclimate it in a different box, because it will then be, or if you do, then temperature acclimate it, because otherwise it'll be a different temperature. So, but that shouldn't be happening. There's something in your tank that is causing that, I would guess, or acclimation. But who knows? Anyway, right, last one, I promise. Michael Stupples. Help, I've had 4 fox aces now, non-survive. If you get the really small ones, they don't do very well. I bought a tiny one that died. It looked thin, actually. But specimen selection is just so important. The topic of this live stream was going to be specimen selection and how to choose the right fish. But I don't have enough software to show you pictures of what I'm talking about. But specimen selection is really important. Make sure with a fish like that as well, there are tons of them in shops. So if it doesn't matter if the shop sells them, there'll be another one along. Make sure you can find one that's been settled in the shop for months, literally months, not just weeks, and is eating and settled. What else do you want to look for? Make sure they don't have a pinched belly. So fish should be, if you like do a cross section and cut one in half, a fox face in particular should be that shape. If they're thin, or if this half of it is sucked in a little bit, then it's not a healthy fish. So specimen selection is really important. Anyway, stop buying fox faces, says Dean. Yeah, maybe that's the answer. That's it. There are a couple of other questions, but I'm gonna wrap it up now because this has gone on beyond what I expected. But thank you to everybody who's watching. 89 likes, 102 people watching. Been great fun, and we'll do it again. So until next time, see you later.